There you are. Hey,
Hey, how you doing?
good. How have you been?
Things have been well. Making the most of everything that I've been given. That is the goal.
Awesome. I haven't seen you in forever. I'm loving this. So I've seen you with all the hair, all the different hairstyles. This is a new one, blonde.
Yeah, man, I cut it all off and recently decided to grow it all back. I feel like maybe some of my strength is in there. It was time for a change. So you look like you got younger. You're not telling me your secrets, but it's okay.
Ah,
It's
you're
okay.
always so sweet. You lie, but thank
Pulling out on
you. Thank you. No, it's just, they say God gives you back your years. So
Wow.
I think he's holding certain things like, to like give me that second chance at life again. I feel like that's what he's doing.
Amen to that. Can you hear me okay? I got my fan going over here. Can you hear it in the background? Are you good?
I can hear you. Make
Okay.
sure you're all the way up here.
All
Okay,
right.
awesome. So I miss you.
I miss you too, man.
I miss seeing you all the time.
Every time come by, like I usually go through like my old pictures
Mm-hmm.
and I'll come by one of our photo shoots or maybe one of our conversations by email because I still have my old email address. It just reminds me of those powerful moments that we had, man, during our sessions in Oklahoma.
We
Ah,
had good times. There was enough, but I wish there was more because you lived in Texas at the
yeah,
time.
yeah, exactly.
So
Definitely good.
everybody, I didn't introduce. This is Donovan D. Darnell. He is my Overcomer Series guest today, author of Before the I Do and Evolving the Entrepreneur. And we met in 2009. Donnie was, at that time, looking for models who was just starting his photography business, getting it going. And I heard, you just got to send him some pictures, and if he likes you, he'll select you. And I'm mama, so I was always behind the camera. I didn't have any pictures. And so I found one that I had, and I sent it. You remember what picture that was?
No, which one was it?
It was the nurse outfit from Halloween.
That's right.
I had to cut myself out because it was me and all the kids, and
I
that was the only
remember.
one I had. So the nurse outfit sold me. So Donnie picked it. And ever since, I was so nervous about that photo shoot. Now I was 30, 32, 30, 32, 33 at the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm not thinking I'm going to be a model for anything, but I wanted the pictures because I wanted to build up my portfolio to act, and I was going to do it. And you gave me such confidence. You were so sweet to do that. And I was just thinking, I felt so awkward. I didn't know anything about modeling, but you were just the best to work with. And I think like all of your pictures, everything you've done, even since then, it's just gotten better. But you know how to capture the angles and the light. The best of a woman, you bring that out. So.
I appreciate that. That was my goal. Help people become the art they crave. So good time.
Are you still doing it?
Yeah. Amongst everything else, I'm still doing my photography. It's definitely moved back on the priority list, but it's there. When people, I don't advertise anymore, but when people still hit me up, I still,
Yeah, I miss seeing you on Instagram and stuff. Your social media presence is gone.
yeah, I needed to, for my own self-healing, for my own evolution, I had to disconnect. I had to declutter some of the energy access or some of the accesses that were putting energy into my life. And so now I'm officially back on Facebook as of like last month with purpose. And yeah, ready to dive in until I need to disconnect again.
I love that. I get it. I went to, in my health, I was going to walk away from real estate, and I had like 300 family members. I had 2 Facebooks forever, and I closed the old business stuff down. And then when I decided to get my strength back, let me go back and try to do real estate again.
Yeah.
I started accepting, and I went without sending out invitations. I went in like a 2 months time from having 300 people that I knew to having the full 5,000 on Facebook.
Yeah.
They just like friends request, and everybody wants to have a conversation. And I can't have a conversation with thousands of strangers, and I don't even have energy for my family and friends. So
yeah.
So I get that.
Yeah. That balance is essential when you recognize that you were purposely born into a family or you purposely live in a community. And so there's specific areas within your immediate surrounding that you're supposed to be pouring into. Now, if we reserve all that energy simply for our entrepreneurial goals, we're kind of missing the main thing. We're missing the life purpose thing in the midst of all of it. So I've learned to not let my ambition lead me away from my purpose, because they can become conflicting at certain points in life. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm trying to get that balance too. I'm trying to get a schedule and just stick to that. And it's hard telling people, it is, you don't want to be rude, but people take it personally when you know, or you don't DM back, or you don't, but I don't have the time. I don't have the energy.
yeah, that's even in my book, Evolving Entrepreneur, that I have a specific chapter called Essentials versus Pursuits, to help people understand that you can pursue all you want, but if you don't have your essentials in place, you won't even have the energy to go after your pursuits. Or if you do go after them, you won't be able to do it in the spirit of excellence. You got to have your essentials prioritized over your pursuits. That way you can have the energy to do things and do them right.
So what are your pursuits nowadays? What are you up to now?
Well, I am a part-time case manager for homeless families. So I am in a social work. I've been doing that for about 3 years now. I'm still doing my personal life coaching. I was specifically doing like relationship stuff, but I've opened up to anybody going through transitions. So I'm doing my life coaching now. Before the quarantine, I was doing leadership coaching for different companies in LA, a different hospital and a packing company, just how to create flow and alignment in your in the culture of your office. Still have my 2 books. I'm working on my 3rd book right now called The Strip Club, and maybe we'll talk about that. And then I'm still doing my photography, and that's all the pursuits outside of just being a man of my family.
Well, let's talk about that. I was going to get to that later, but since you mentioned it, we'll just go right there.
All right.
Donovan D. Darnell, former stripper. Can I say your name? Will you let me
Yes,
say
you can. You know it?
Yeah, I remember. Mr. Goodbar. Mr. Goodbar himself joining us today. You want to tell everybody how this is how you got started in the industry. How old were you? And
19 years old.
A baby.
Yeah, it was after my first year of college in Atlanta. I came back home, and I was actually dared into it, and it got me.
Yeah. And so, I mean, let's talk about that. So I was going to, let me see, before I even went in there, what was like, so, I mean, it got you. So, because you grew up in the church.
Yeah.
Right? And
yeah.
So at this time you had to have kind of I mean, you were 19 and yeah, you were a baby, but you're old enough to know certain things.
Yeah.
So when did, and we have different levels of where we go. So when did faith actually, I know it had to be years as a child, when did faith in your relationship with God become a personal thing to you, not just being taken to church by mom every Sunday?
Man, that is a really good question. I feel like there was this maybe years of transitioning between it becoming personal and not an obligation, where it became an honor and an essential versus like, you better go. That happened between like the ages of like 16 to about 19, because even though I was a stripper and I was at the club, I still went to church on Sundays, and sometimes I even still went to Bible study on Wednesdays. So it was still a part of my life. So at that point, I was still, going. I got kicked out of the choir because I had, colorful hair, I had piercings in my face, and I ended up leaving that church. It was my grandfather's church. I ended up leaving that church. And at that point, I was living on my own. I could do whatever I wanted, but I still chose to go to a different church. So between 16 and 19, that transition of, man, I might need this. The things that were planted in me as a child, they say train your child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. And so it doesn't mean that they won't go off and do random things, but it's going to stay with them. And so, those are the years.
Can you explain that to me? Because I did a post recently, because this is in my heart heavily, but how religion and God and love and faith, like, you can be a Christian and not be, there is no such thing as a perfect Christian. So I have my own, like, not issues, it's not like an angry personal, but my walk in as far as religion and faith have gone in totally different directions. Like, I just believe, I think there's so many Christians and non-Christians that want to hold a Christian to a certain standard, but please explain how you can be a Christian and still be at the club and how that's still okay. And not saying that the actions are okay, but that the two can coincide.
I think that for the most part, it's a very blanket statement. But for the most part, as a whole, humanity is obsessed with the destination. They want to get there. They want to be here and say, okay, I've gotten here. But so much of life is a process, the evolution process, the process of maturing, all this stuff is a continual, perpetual state that we live in. And I think that with our desires, humans that want to have control over things, that's how we become obsessed with having destinations. That's where the idea of being a perfect Christian comes from. Or if you've arrived and you're really in a relationship with God, then these things won't happen in your life. These things don't exist. The Bible and none of the other religious books really portrayed that as a reality. There was none of them, not one religion portrays anyone as perfect except for the one who set the standard. And for every religion, that could be a different deity or a different identity. But for every follower, it's always a thing that we pursue, and a thing, once we obtain it, we're driven by. And so, you know, people would challenge if I was a Christian or not. And the best thing I found to do is not argue with them. Just let them have their opinion, because at the end of the day, if I believe in God, this is going to be between me and God. And regardless of what people say about me or think about me, if they don't have a heaven or hell to put me in, then I don't really hold their opinion as such with such weight and such value.
Yeah. There's so much I want to, we could talk for hours, but that is exactly where, you know, I'm at my own place. And so I was going to ask you what you think about religion, but I do want to ask you, well, let me just go there. What do you think about religion? And do you believe all religions are connected?
So I believe that the idea of religion has, way before we got here, it's taken on its own path, because we talk about religion as being Muslim or Christian or Hindu, but every single person does things religiously. And whether you've identified or titled that as your religion, football can be your religion, home care, cleaning can be your religion. We do things religiously. And that's where the idea of religion came from. What do you do religiously? The issue is that these main religions, they've taken that religious state from a subconscious to a conscious. Now, this is what we do. We set up a church, or we set up a building, and people come, and we like have a structure about it. But everybody's a part of some kind of religious activity, and they may not be aware of it. My opinion on religion is that it gets tricky, because I've been involved for like my entire life, and I've taken a step back and had to look at things differently. But there's this business aspect of religion that comes into play, and that's what has the opportunity to pervert what was really meant to guide human beings into an evolved state, or even a closer relationship with God through Jesus. The business side of it is man-made, and so trying to merge those two together, it's water and oil, it doesn't mix. So it requires at some point that you compromise. And so I think that's where we see religion having its good days and having its bad days. But yeah, I do hear people say I'm not religious, but I have a relationship. I'm religious. I know I am. I believe every human being is. I'm a Christian. And when I say that I'm a Christian, what the Bible tells me, that means taking care of orphans, taking care of widows, helping those who are less fortunate. That's what my religion with my God is all about. That's what Jesus came, and he set me free, opened my eyes so that I can do those things specifically, so I can love on people. That is my religion. I think that if people took more time to think about what they're a part of, then they would be able to clearly defend their faith and why they do what they do.
Right. For me, I believe, and God's put this in my heart, that my religion is love. Mm-hmm. And I'm learning to love deeper. And God, this past year has just been a big eye-opener, but he just kind of set me back. I thought I was ready. I thought I was evolved and I'd overcome everything I needed to, and I was going to get a break. And God said, no, now you're ready to peel you back raw, and you're going to relearn everything deeper in a thicker, clearer way. And I'm like, okay. But that unconditional love is hard. It is. It's that totally taking pride and ego out. So that's my religion right now. It is trying to retrain my subconscious, trying to retrain my brain, retrain my old habits that I didn't even realize I had, and any negative words coming out of my mouth. And so
that's big, because I think that what you said is key. It is a retraining, and that's why we don't worry about being perfect, but we submit ourselves to the perfecting of it. Loving unconditional is what God is. And so, we do our best to walk in that, but give ourselves grace, knowing that we were born into sin, and not making it an excuse, but just still like, okay, if I fall off, let me just get back on, instead of making it this hard line that if we don't, then we're full of shame and guilt. And that doesn't work well.
So saying that, I see the Bible differently than I used to. Mm-hmm. I still am a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe he's my Lord and Savior. you talk about tribes and who are, around, and that's the tribe I was born into. That's my tribe.
Yeah.
And I know that, and I've experienced those miracles, but I do believe God will show himself in different ways to different tribes and different religions. It's the same God. That's what I believe. Do you believe every word of the Bible as a good, quote unquote, good Christian? Or do you
every word as what?
As a quote unquote a good Christian? Like every word of the Bible you have to follow?
Well, no, because every word in the Bible wasn't spoken by God. Some were spoken by the Spirit of God. Some were spoken by Jesus. Some were spoken by women and men whose stories are being told. So no, not every word is a word from God.
Yes, I feel so much better, because I was having such a guilt about and then getting ready to write my own book, and then thinking Christians, I know there's going to be Christians that are in an uproar if I say that in my book, but I'm saying that in my book. Because Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Paul did their best. They did their best, but they didn't know everything. They were Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Paul over down the street,
Yeah, exactly. And that always, when I get a chance to speak to people, I always like to use the phrase "so far." So far is a phrase that helps me know that I'm in my humanity and I've only evolved so much. Everything that I tell you is only what I've learned so far. So for me to act like this is a matter of fact, this is it, this is all it's all what I know and what I understand so far. And I think that operating and speaking from that level of humility is what's going to help us to be united and also help us to really love unconditionally. Not trying to convince people of anything, just let them know what I've learned so far, because one year to the next, I can come into a whole new awakening of an event or an idea. And then it's like, oh, this is what it really means. Just understand that every year or every moment you have this experience with God, you're going to understand a little bit more deeply. The Bible says we understand if we prophesy only in part, And so as we study and stay committed to this relationship with God, he'll continue to reveal it to us. And so, I just try to always say, this is what I know so far.
So I never knew stripper Donnie. I only knew, giving my life to God, Donnie, and try to just rebuild Donnie. And I again, love all our conversations. So you were what, about 28 when we met in 09?
20, just turned 29, I believe.
Okay, so you were 29, so 10 years since you have been stripping.
Yeah.
What was the big moment to stop you from, where was it? Because there's a lot of men out there that, they're into whether they're stripping or not, whether it's porn, whether it's just different women on Instagram, whether it's giving into all of these temptations. As a man, it was so easy for you to make money and to get women and where did you decide, where were you not being fulfilled that you decided to make a change?
This is an interesting part of my story, because since I've left, I've identified, me being a male exotic dancer as an addiction, but also an idol. So anybody who's listening that's dealing with an idol or an addiction, this might be helpful. The moment where I saw that I wasn't being fulfilled was about 2 years before I quit dancing. So for 2 years, I was fighting to quit or stay, dig in deeper or whatnot. And the lack of fulfillment I had was family. I wanted a wife and I wanted kids. And so I went back and forth with the idea of, man, okay, I want to quit because no woman's going to really respect me like this, or this can't be the lifestyle I bring my children up in, but I need money. I don't know how else I'm going to make money. So that bad, and I was getting all this attention and praise. And so for years I went back and forth, and I'd be ready to quit. Then there's this big party and I make all this money. I'm like, I definitely can't let this go, because now I want to go on these trips. But April 24th, 2004 was the day that I quit. And what happened was I had a Donnie day. And the Donnie day was when I would cut off my cell phone, go get a hotel room, swim, and order room service, watch movies all day. This particular day, one of my friends came over that I really liked, this young lady I really liked. And so she hung out with me just for a little bit. But I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, looking out the big patio window. And I said, God, my wife and children won't respect me if I'm doing this. What do I need to do? And the word that came in my spirit was just quit. Quit. And since that day, this is a very short version. Since that day, I never went back. And so I quit because I had a lack of fulfillment in my heart, because since I was like 8 years old, I always wanted a wife and 10 kids. Since I was 8 years old, since I was a kid, I wanted a wife and 10 children. And I didn't even quit for God. I wasn't really interested in a deeper relationship with God. I wanted something from him. And so that's what I quit for. And I haven't gotten it yet, but I've gotten a revelation around that.
Okay. That's tough, because that was my question, and I think for a lot of men and single people, period. Because to me, like, people struggle. They get in quick relationships. They break up. They go through, over a period of 10 years, 7 breakups. They do this. Looking at you, you're handsome, intelligent, man of God, loving, authentic. You're picture perfect, and yet you've been single all these years.
Yeah.
So how do you? That's as a woman, and looking. Sometimes I step back and I have to adjust myself. But as a woman, he's kind of like, God, like, I'm doing all the right things.
Yeah.
I'm devoted to you, and I'm trying to listen to you and hear you. Why are these things not being fulfilled? So what was your revelation?
Your destiny is bigger than your desires. That was my revelation. Your purpose in life, if you really submit yourself to God, mm-hmm. He's looking at you as a part of the body of Christ, the church. This whole organization, not the organization, or whole organism, and he's looking for you to play your part. And sacrifices are required. When you give into your purpose, sacrifices are required, because a lot of times the desires we want in life come from us spending so much time in life around other people, seeing what they have, and then desiring that we want that too. But there was something that was embedded within us, that even if I got the wife and the kids, I still wouldn't really feel fulfilled. That's what I thought that I needed. But it's really just what I wanted. And my revelation was that, again, going back to that part about destiny over desires, that when I signed up for this thing with God, he promises in his word that he will do exceedingly abundantly above what you could ask or think. But in order for purpose to be fulfilled, there's a removal of flesh and ego and pride that must happen. Yes. And oftentimes, the thing that you want the most is what he'll ask you to put on the altar, to sacrifice, to show that, hey, I really want what you want for me. And so, again, it goes back to the idea that God is not my genie. I don't just rub him or pray to him whenever I want what I want. Like, he created me with a purpose in mind. So my revelation was that instead of me always asking God for what I want, I need to ask God, what do you want? And that's how I started living my life. That's how I am extremely content and fulfilled, even right now in my life, with not having a wife and kids. And I'm like, okay. Not just, I'm okay, and I'm gonna get off the camera and cry. I'm okay. I was in premarital counseling for the last month and a half, 2 months, and it didn't work. God told me to shut it off and stop it. And so I was closer than ever to being married and getting on that path to having children, and it stopped. And I'm solid right now. His peace and his presence has given me this ability to be like, okay, it doesn't change anything. I no longer live my life according to what I see in my circumstances. I trust his promises and know that in time, they'll come to pass, whatever I need.
Yeah, I think I read that book. I don't know if you've read it, and I talk about it all the time, Marianne Williamson, A Return to Love. And it's based off, so good. But it's based off of principles of the Bible. And anyways, I read it, and that was one of the things it showed me. It's like exactly what you're saying. It's our ego, our superficial selves, the part that we're born into, tells us that you need to get married and you need to have kids, and we want that because we're in these human bodies, and these human bodies are taught by a subconscious, and that affects our emotions. And what we have to do is get away from everything that the earth has put, that this world has put into us, and know that what we all are, is just love. We are extensions of God. We were all connected. We are all the same. That's why nobody is better than anybody else. And when we can take out the worldly ideas and worldly thoughts and get back to the connection of, no, I am love. I am, she has a great quote that, says, who are you, who am I? We ask ourselves, who am I to be great and wonderful? Who are you not to be? You are an extension of God. And so that's what it came to me. That same kind of idea came to me. It's like, if it happens, the romantic in me, I would love it. I would love to have that, But in the big purpose of everything, this is such a minute, speckle of dust in the whole, realm of the world from the beginning to the end. And am I doing my part to be that extension of love and to constantly heal myself so that I can teach others to heal themselves? And just surrendering more. So I just have to keep being present. And if I'm present, I can do that. It's like, okay, right now in this moment, I am good right now. And I just constantly stay grateful. In this moment, I am happy. In this moment, I am love. I can give love. And it allows me to wake up and really wash away any of that ego and then those needs that the world says, I've always told myself I needed. So
I agree 100%. That presentness is something I've been preaching, I want to say, or teaching or talking about for years now since I've been life coaching. And it's something I also try to practice daily with different activities, because that's what actually presentness is what keeps you sane. It's what
Yeah.
keeps you at peace and what keeps you in the process of being healed and being made whole and evolving. You know, when you're absent of where you presently are, then you're not pouring into and feeding where you are. So it's not growing. It's not becoming, you know, like you said, this extension of love, this what you come from, what you're made from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were talking about so you're going to premarital counseling. So obviously there was that happened.
Yeah.
But you've talked about in the past, and I know you put this out there, so I can bring it up,
Yeah.
being celibate.
Yes.
So that's a part I think in my flesh I feel frustrated with too. Because I mean, I haven't been all these years since I've been divorced. I haven't been out there, but it's happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happened. And, you know, I think part of it, there's definitely that flesh part of me that's like, but you're going to get old and you're going to be like, you know, and celibacy doesn't mean to me what it meant when I was younger. When I was younger, it was good girls don't do that. You know, you were shamed into being celibate because you didn't want to be a hoe, you didn't want to be used, you didn't want to be, you know.
Yeah.
But then it was like, well, what if I just want to because I'm getting old? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I mean, what do you still practice? What made that choice? And how, for men who can't imagine it, I'll let you.
Wow.
talk.
This is always a fun topic for me because a lot of my friends can't imagine me even trying to practice it, especially as being a photographer that I was. They can understand that. But in short, man, yeah, I practiced abstinence for 10 years. I was abstinent for 10 years, since 2010. And when I found who I thought was going to have this holy marital matrimony with me, we decided that we were going to have sex because this was us and we were going to make this happen. And we leaned to our own understanding in that moment, and we made it a part of our lives. And so now we're both like, wow, we're not in premarital counseling. We're not even in a relationship. We're not even together anymore. And we've already done that. We've broken it, thought we were doing something sacred. But what I've already learned from it is that you need to continue to seek counsel on those big decisions like that, either a mentor or accountability partners. We just took it amongst ourselves. And that probably wasn't the best idea. So, of course, you know, there's no guilt, there's no shame, there's an understanding, there's repentance, and you get back to it. So, yeah, for 10 years, man, in and out of doing photography and all the coaching and living in LA and all the temptations around me. It's possible when you really are, one, continue to understand that you are not your own, and two, understand that if you say yes to this, you're saying no to something else. And I think that was one of the big revelations for me. If I say yes to this, then what am I saying no to?
Yeah.
And that stopped me in a lot of different moments, because I don't want to say yes to this flesh, and then that means, okay, no to this prayer request. And I just want to be mindful of that, because I'm creating my reality as I move along with my actions, with my behaviors, with how I respond to life. It's mirroring me. So if I lack discipline, then there may be an opportunity for me to lack a manifestation of what it is I truly want.
So how did you, in believing in your purpose, how did you come to know what your purpose is? And what do you believe it is right now? What are you working towards?
I believe that purpose is another thing that's always unfolding in my mind. I don't know anybody personally who God just said, this is your purpose, boom, full color, full details, this is what you're supposed to do. I believe that as the more I die to self, the more the vision of my purpose becomes clear. And so I believe that everybody's intended to live out some part of the Bible, some command from God or some desire of God's heart. And for me, it's Romans 12:2, where God said, I'll transform you into a new creature by changing the way that you think. So I believe that my purpose, and that is continuing to unfold, is that God is using me as one of his weapons or his tools to transform people, which is why I try to do it through my coaching, through my books, through my conversations, even through my photography. I try to help people transform into this new creature. I believe that that's the part of his word that he is purpose for me to be a part of manifesting in my generation, transforming people into the newness.
So I love that you said that, because it helps me feel free again, because I feel like that, like I don't feel so chaotic anymore. It's not like everything in the air. It's starting to get definitely more peace and calm. But the same thing, I don't have a plan. There's no plan. So the plan is to just wake up and show up each day and just let it unfold.
One step at a time. One
Yes.
step at a time. I've tried the big year plan thing, and it's good to have like a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, whatever. But understand this: the Bible says that many are a man's plans, but the Lord orders his steps. And so every day, one step at a time, I'm still trusting God because it's good. It's my responsibility as a steward of my life to put together some kind of plan, no matter how detailed or weak it is, but always leaving room for God to say, okay, this is what I'm really doing. This is what I want to do from one day to the next. And that's where you really find like yourself walking on water, doing, the impossible by trusting him one step at a time.
So what signs, when you're trusting God, I believe in signs, what have been your biggest signs along the way, the good ones and the bad ones, like the ones where doors just slammed that you just did not expect, and the ones where doors just open that you were like, whoa, thank you, like God, for making this happen?
Wow. Signs and confirmations is always an interesting topic because they're always left to our interpretation. We look at life through our personality filter. So we're interpreting everything that happens to us, what we see, what we hear, even what it happens in our, in our subconscious or in our mind. For me, one of the biggest signs for me that I needed to shift gears, I'll say it that way, was I put all this effort and all this money into building my entrepreneurship up, only to find myself one day with all 3 of my bank accounts at zero. I think 2 of them were negative. And I'm like, God, how did this happen? Like, you've given me these gifts. You've given me this promise. I've told you what I wanted. I've committed to this. I've put my treasures and my efforts and my energy into it. And now I'm sitting here, don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. Don't know where I'm going to live at. And God was showing me that it was time to shift gears. It was time to move. That's when I moved into social work. And I thought it was a demotion. I thought I got punished. But it was really like he wanted my gift at work with these clients, with this homeless population. And so I feel like these signs come when it's time to make a move or make a shift, like a sign on the road is letting you know that something different is about to occur. And so prepare yourself. And so that was one of the biggest signs, because it was hard to pull me from entrepreneurship. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 19. And so to be thrust into a whole different world of social work at the age of like 37, which I didn't have a degree in or anything like that, was a big shift. But God, he opened up a path for me, right? And so this is another sign for me to where you don't even have to seek it out. It finds you. That job found me through my mentor. And the people like I coach at this one hospital now, they're asking me, hey, would you come on to be an operations supervisor? And I don't even have any clinical background. This stuff is finding me. And I identify those as signs where God has things come your way that you don't even think you're qualified for. Or if you looked at it on paper, you wouldn't be qualified for it, but it continues to find you. Those are some of the signs that I often recognize, like that's God showing me and guiding me, like I've been praying for him too.
Who in your life had the most impact on you, whether positive or negative, that made you the man that you are now? Who are the people that just affected you the most?
There's so many things that come to mind when I really think about the question, but the first person that came to mind was my niece. My niece, my baby. She's my sister's first child. So it's my first niece. I think I was 22 years old, and she came to me one day, and it was a family function, and she looked at me and she said, "You're only my uncle when you're around." And it crushed my heart, because it in that moment, because I had such a love for her, it helped me see where I was falling short with my responsibility to my family and how I wasn't present. I was so far off into my own wants, my own desires, my own pursuits, that I was neglecting a very essential part that God had put into my life. And so when I think about like my grandfather, my mother, my mentor and stuff, it was my niece that really got me on this path to stay present and stay awakened to what's essential. Her little bitty voice, still to this day, is the most powerful, life-changing moment that God used a human being for to get me on path.
I love that one. Do you ever have, in dealing with this, and I wanted to ask you this because I told you I was dealing with this about a week or so ago. I went through some challenging times last year, and at a time where I could have been my most down and depressed, I had the most faith. And I was just and I just know it was because God was carrying me. He was carrying me through that time. you know, but it was like, I think I had no choice but to, I woke up grateful and I said my prayers and I just wake up so grateful and I was more present than ever. And I went to bed grateful and just for any little thing. And I was just overjoyed. And then in a position where I can start to see light at the end of the tunnel where I'm going and certain things are lining up, I found like some dark places of doubt. But
Yeah.
do you get those? How do you deal with them? Do you get nights of doubt where you're just like,
Now where I'm at in my life, this might sound weird, but I love those moments because those moments are letting me know that I'm transitioning. Because if you're growing in a relationship with either your knowledge of a subject or a relationship with a perfect person, if you don't come to places where you're doubting, that means that your faith is not being stretched. That means that you're playing it safe. You know, you believe what you believe, and I'm going to stay right here. Doubt is evidence that you're searching for more because you're being stressed like, oh, can I believe you this far, but can I believe you this far? It's evidence that you're exercising your faith beyond your comfort zone. And so doubt is not a bad thing. It's really an indicator that you're trying to make something grow or that you're exploring beyond what you're comfortable with. And I do come to those places. So when my friends tell me, man, I'm questioning if this whole God thing is even real, or I'm questioning if Jesus is really his son, or I'm questioning if I'm really who I say that I am. And I say, good, stay there. Don't back away. Don't prematurely draw any conclusions. Just stay in it until you get some clarity. And it could be a very uncomfortable few months. It could be a very uncomfortable 3 years. But from my experience and from my experience with my mentors and friends, it always yields this growth and this closeness with God and your purpose. God is not offended by you doubting him. He's not offended by your questions. He wants you to question. He wants you to be honest because that's how the relationship grows.
yeah, oh, it's more just less doubting God and more doubting myself. Like, you know, in writing my book is the hardest thing. It's like, who's going to read it? People are just going to judge. I'm just going to put my spill my tea out there just to arm other people who just haters and, you know, and so there's just that self-doubt that, you know, it's like,
Again,
you know, I'm not amazing. I've done nothing amazing with my life. You know, who has going to read my book? Why do I think it's important? But it's something I know I've known since I was 12, I have to do it.
Yeah. I think that even when it comes to writing a book, is it really doubt of self or doubt of being accepted? There's psychology says there's three things that humans always want. They want to feel safe, supported, and accepted. From the moment we're born to the moment we die, feeling safe, supported, and accepted is something that we all struggle with. So sometimes it's not even an identity doubt. It's a doubt if I would be safe, supported, or accepted if I do this. With my books, man, I made a vision board and I wanted to be the #1 bestseller and have 1 million books sold and stuff. And over time, I got away from that. And I told God, like, whoever, I said, you love some person I don't know so much that you're having me write this book. And if they're the only person that buys it and they're the only person that needs it, I've done my job and I will be rewarded by you for my obedience. I don't need the world to give me all the accolades and get, like he said, according to his riches in heaven, I will be provided for. And so even when it comes to acceptance, I was reading in John, I think 6 and 7 last night, how Jesus was misunderstood, misinterpreted, rejected, outcast because of the things he was saying and doing. He didn't obsess over that acceptance from the world. He already knew where the world would stand because of what he'd been called to do. He knew that he was accepted by his Father in heaven and by a select few, and that was enough. And that's where I'm trying to grow into being okay with that and knowing that it doesn't matter how many I reach, as long as I reach who's been called to my hands. There's specific people that have been called to your care, and that's who you're writing your book for. And as long as they get it, you've done your job, and God will reward you for your obedience.
Yes, and what you just said spoke to me too. That you know that all that matters is that, you know, it's enough. You know, that I've done it. That's enough. So yeah, I think the same thing about reaching people, but it is that acceptance. It is that not feeling safe, and it is that, you know, I worry less about the fame of it and notoriety and more about the shaming and the scolding or the, you know, that part of it. But yeah,
It's going to happen. Just prepare yourself for it. It's going to happen. Because I was trying to be an actor at such a young age, I'm very familiar with rejection and criticism. And so now it doesn't bother me like it did when I was younger. So I tell people, like, don't shy away from it. If your environment, you know, where you are criticized and judged often, it's okay. Just bring it back to your circle of people who you trust and who know you. And that's where you get your affirmations from. But all that's just a part of you trying to do what God's called you to do. And sometimes that's countercultural. Sometimes you're bucking the system and people are uncomfortable with that, but they'll be okay. They'll get over it.
So I'm doing, and I don't know, I know that you've had some stuff from your past, but I'm doing in writing the book, I know it's emotional because it's what I thought when I thought I was a strong woman. Everybody said you're such a strong woman because you've overcome so much stuff. So I thought I was strong. And I thought, I dealt with stuff. And in writing the book, I realized I'm not strong at all. I just never dealt with anything. I compartmentalized and put it over here, and I learned to survive. And I've been living in survival mode for all these years. So yeah, I can stand up to anybody, and because I know how to shut it off and put it, and then just put stuff away, and and just react. And so I'm learning. I had this in my head, and then I learned it's an actual therapy. But in writing my book, I know it's going to be healing, and that's part of why it takes me time to write it too, because it's a lot to open up. It's emotional, but it's going to be healing to that younger child that I was. It's like conversations with that younger child. And I heard that that's a therapy, that they actually have you, hug yourself and imagine yourself as when you were young and talk to yourself. So if you're going to talk to young Donovan D. Darnell, a little mini you, what would you say if you had a chance to hold that little, at a time when you needed you most, when you were young? What would you tell yourself?
Well, I like to operate from the same things that I teach, and I say, what is the first thing to come to your mind before you think too deep into it? And then immediately I saw myself holding myself, saying that you're a vessel of love. That was the one thing I said to myself. And I was holding myself at a moment where I didn't cry a lot as a kid, but I didn't cry sad tears. I cried because I was angry. I had a short temper, and there was a reason why I had like this short fuse and this anger and rage inside of me. That's come out sometimes since I've been an adult, but that would be the thing that I would tell myself, like, hey, you are a vessel of love, because I didn't understand what to do with this power inside of me, this passion inside of me, and it would come out in destructive ways sometimes. And I think that if I just was able to hold myself and say, hey, whatever this is inside of you is power for love. Just help me to point it in the right direction. I think that would be healing for me, because there was a lot of confusion. For years, I think when I was maybe in my teens and early 20s, I struggled. I thought I was an antichrist. I thought I was possessed by demons. Honestly, I asked my mentors, I asked pastors church, like, is it possible? Like, I struggled because I didn't grow up with my father. So I struggled in certain places with my identity, what to do with this power, this strength, this passion. How do I define it? How do I identify it? How do I use it? And so I ended up in some dark places, wondering, like, what in the world is wrong with me? And again, just holding my young self, saying you're a vessel of love, would have helped me to alleviate any of those unnecessary questions and kept me on a path that I can just dig my heels into. Yeah, with all that was inside of me.
I love that. Okay, so as we kind of get towards wrapping it up, I always ask the same people the same questions.
Yeah.
What is your favorite quote or verse?
Favorite quote is that we were never intended to experience life. Life was intended to experience us.
I love that one. And they're making a movie about your life. Mr. Goodbar.
Oh, yeah.
Coming to theaters 2021. What is the theme song of your movie?
Wow. That's not good. The first thing that came
I know we're mute though. You can give me two. Give me two.
The first thing that came to mind was my song from the club, which was "We Will Rock You." Goodness, that is hilarious.
That's a good one. It's a good song.
It's a great song, right? I might have to stick with that.
Okay, let's stick with that. I mean, because that can all the different parts of your life.
Yeah, and that goes back to me just wanting to make an impact in my generation. My name Donovan means dark warrior, so I think it still pertains. Yeah,
I love it. And if people want to read your books, where do they go to find you? If they want to hear your coaching and your lectures and read some of your books, where do they go find you at?
Honestly, you just put in Donovan D. Darnell, and I'll spell it out. That's DONOVAN DEE DONNELL.com. You can go to my website, or you can put my name in Google, or you can put my name in Facebook. I already tried it. I pop up all over the place. You can put it on YouTube. YouTube, I have over 200 videos on YouTube, and I already have playlists, so it's sectioned out to whatever you may want to listen to. But yeah, just put my name in there, and you'll find YouTube. You'll find all my videos. On my website, you'll find how to connect with me and other resources. And on Facebook, you'll kind of find my day-to-day dealings and how I'm trying to impact my generation right now.
Okay. He is a great speaker, so men and women, but I definitely think more men need to be like you. So I want any men listening, go watch his YouTube channels because he has a lot to offer. Just down to earth, loving, big heart. And his books, Evolving the Entrepreneur and Before the I Do, are available for you to purchase as well. So thank you, Donnie.
I love you, and I thank you so much for this opportunity.
I love you so much too. I miss you so much.
We'll hug soon. Don't even worry about it. We'll hug soon. We will.
Okay. All right. I know. Get out here. I'll get out there. We'll figure it out.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.